This one's going to be good. Last month, the U.S. Treasury Secretary, he gave a speech for America's 250th birthday. 250 years. And in the speech, he named stablecoins, tokenization, and digital assets. And he named these things as official instruments of American power. But that's not even the big deal. That's not like even the headline. The headline is what he said before all of that. Because in the same exact speech, he basically committed the United States of America to a multi-year build of the same economic engine that I've been telling you about in these crypto videos all year long. The engine that drives crypto markets.
So tonight, I would like to take the next step and describe our strategy for economic statecraft, by which I mean the disciplined use of America's economic power in the service of our sovereignty.
That is the business cycle, not the halving, not the 4-year cycle. And it's being written into national policy. So let me show you exactly what he said and what it means for crypto, altcoins, Bitcoin, everything. So it was June 23rd, the Economic Club of New York, their America 250 gala dinner. This is what happened. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, he stood there, he stood up, and he delivered what he called economic statecraft. And here's his definition: the disciplined use of America's economic power in service of our sovereignty. 5 core principles. This wasn't like an off-the-cuff random interview that you might see on Fox News or CNBC or something. This was the third speech of a planned series of speeches. He was in Dallas, then the Reagan Forum, and then New York. So this is one of those speeches that basically gets cited for years. And it was principle number 3 where crypto came into play. He calls it writing the rules of the next economy. And inside of that principle, he names them directly: digital assets, stablecoins, tokenization.
I think, for example, the new frontiers in financial technologies, digital assets, stablecoins, tokenization, and new payment systems will help to shape the future of money. The United States should not consign itself to the sidelines while that future is built elsewhere.
And it's his words. These things will help shape the future of money. And the United States should not consign itself to the sidelines while that future is built elsewhere. So notice the framing of that. He's not talking about speculation. He's not warning about volatility. He's saying that these rails strengthen the dollar and America. Crypto framed as statecraft. And I know the current administration has been doing a lot of talk about crypto ever since, really, even before the elections of 2024. And it's not just talk, though. The Genius Act, the federal stablecoin law, was signed last July. The statutory deadlines for regulators to finish the rules is July 18th. So that's literally next week. The OCC, FinCEN, FDIC, all of them have been racing their proposals out of the door all spring. So the speech that Bessent gave and the rulemaking that is currently taking place, they're all part of the same exact story. The United States is formalizing digital dollars as regulated financial infrastructure. But here's the thing, the crypto paragraph, it's not the most bullish part of the speech. It's fundamentally awesome. It's fundamentally something we've talked about for cycles now, for this moment to come, but it's not the most bullish part of the speech. Principle 1 is the most bullish part of the speech. Principle 1, economic security begins with national capacity. And here's what Bessent did. He quoted Alexander Hamilton, who was the first Treasury Secretary, saying every nation ought to endeavor to possess within itself all the essentials of national supply. Then he lists the industries America must lead: semiconductors, AI, quantum computing, advanced manufacturing, shipbuilding, critical minerals, pharmaceuticals. And he goes further. He says, a nation that cannot produce what it needs is not truly secure. A nation that reduces its economics to consumption is not truly prosperous. Now, every single word of that, the factories, the fabs, the shipyards, the reshoring, every word of it is measured by one index. And you might have guessed it. It's the Purchasing Managers Index, the PMI. PMI is a monthly survey of the actual people who actually run American manufacturing. New orders, production, employment, those are its literal subcomponents. So when the Treasury Secretary announces a national multi-year commitment to rebuilding industrial capacity, he's describing line by line future PMI strength. He's describing a productivity boom, an economic boom. Reshoring is new orders. Factory buildouts are production. Hiring to run those factories is employment. And what's awesome is right now, all the money is already moving. Over $1 trillion in U.S. manufacturing investment announced in the first 8 months of this administration, on top of the $750 billion that was announced under the last one. This is the largest industrial build-out in American history, and it's bipartisan across 2 administrations. So what's the point of all this? The point of all this is I've called the business cycle the alarm clock for crypto for a very long time now. And that alarm clock, it rings when PMI expands, when liquidity starts flowing and risk assets wake up. And crypto always being the last domino to fall in that entire series of events. So what this speech tells you is very simple. Policy itself is now winding the clock. So therefore, let's look at where the clock actually stands, because this is not hypothetical. The data is printing right now. June PMI printed 53.3. That's the 6th consecutive month of expansion, meaning above 50. The longest streak since 2022. Before June, May printed 54, the strongest reading in 4 years. Now, here's the thing. Is 53.3 like this blowout number? No, it's not. It came in slightly under expectations and production cooled for May. It's been kind of sideways since expanding. So I'm not going to sit here and oversell the monthly print that's happening right now. But the thing to pay attention to is 6 straight months above 50 after a long stretch, a multi-year stretch, stuck below it. That is the indicator. Now overlay the thing I always overlay. Total crypto market cap against PMI, or altcoin dominance against PMI. Walk through this with me. PMI bottoms, turns up through 50, and crypto's major expansion follows. Maybe not immediately, but we are entering that new era of the cycle after years of contraction. The pattern is not perfect. No macro relationship is, but it has been the single most consistent framework that I found in all of my years of crypto and all of my years of doing this. In my opinion, it is way more explanatory than the halving narrative through all of these cycles. And I think even right now, it's more consistent and even beating that entire narrative. And one of the most compelling things is where our CCVI risk models sit right now for Bitcoin, for total crypto market cap chart, for altcoin risk. They are right at the lowest levels through all of these cycles as the PMI is expanding. Now, I do want to speak to the 4-year halving cycle, and I want to be fair. I know the halving is real. I know it cuts the new Bitcoin supply in half on a fixed schedule. I realize that. And I realize that supply mechanics, they do matter on the macro. But that's exactly the point. It's a fixed schedule. It can't respond to anything else. Anything else. All the other things that are going on, it can't respond to. It doesn't know when the Treasury Secretary is giving a speech about economic policy for America's 250th birthday. It doesn't know $1 trillion of factory investment is breaking ground. It can't see the Genius Act deadline that's happening next week. It can't see the Clarity Act that is in play right now. It can't see the contraction and the expansion of these business cycles through all of these cycles. It doesn't see any of that. But the business cycle does see that. And the business cycle responds to these things. That's why I've been saying that the business cycle is the transmission mechanism between government action and asset prices. Even the riskiest ones, even the riskiest altcoins. Policy drives capacity, and capacity drives PMI. And PMI drives liquidity conditions and risk appetite across the board. And crypto, the highest beta risk asset on the board, rides that wave harder than any other thing. So now let's close the loop from the beginning of the video. The Treasury Secretary put both halves of my thesis into an official speech, into an official plan. Rebuild the industrial engine, the thing that PMI measures. And Principle 3, formalize digital assets as instruments of the dollar, the asset class itself, the engine that runs everything, and the actual assets. In the same exact speech by the current Treasury Secretary. A 4-year cycle schedule cannot explain that. It knows nothing of it, but the business cycle explains all of it. So policy really is winding this entire clock, and the cycle is going to tell us when it finally reacts to it. And I genuinely just think that the data to watch is the same data it's always been. And it's been PMI. It's been business cycle expansion. It's been the productivity boom that is happening right now and getting ready to happen even more. That's really not any type of hype. It's not a countdown to October 5th. It's a business cycle that the United States of America and the United States government just committed itself to extending. So I really felt it was relevant to talk about what Bessent talked about in that speech. He's literally the Treasury Secretary, and we are at this massive inflection point for crypto. And I really do think that everything that is going on within the administration, within policy, within the business cycle has so much to do with the investment thesis that I personally have for crypto. So I wanted to share it with you. I hope you got some value. If you did, please hit the subscribe and like on the way out. And if you're not in our intelligence system, please click the link below if you want to try it out. We have a free trial going on. Get inside our risk models and start planning on the macro. I'll see you in the next video. God bless.